So I decided to make a new type of video, because every now and then I'll stumble across something I find particularly fascinating that I think deserves a much deeper and more in-depth look at than we normally do. Because I've found that a lot of people just kind of naturally assume things about cards, and sometimes those things are obvious and sometimes they're not. But when you take the effort to actually sit down and analyze something, you could be surprised what you learn or how you reevaluate certain cards. And since everyone seems to be naming their little video segments after cards, I'm going to go with Paper Trail because the artwork makes a really cool background and the cards are made of paper, I guess. So anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy the math and science and other reasons you don't have a date this weekend. So the subject of today's video is none other than Top Hat, which I have to admit, I owe this card an apology. So when it first came out, I was on the same boat as everyone else, just saying it was a funny, goofy little flavor card that really wasn't good for much, that it, just plain wasn't very useful. But then I recently had an epiphany about it that went a little something like, yeah, Top Hat, whatever, what a crappy card. I mean, all you do is keep running R&D over and over again and seeing one card deeper each time. I mean, what good is... Holy crap, that sounds just like Medium. And yes, I specifically avoided naming the video, is Top Hat as good as Medium, or any dumb clickbaity thing like that. And most of you are probably out there saying, well, duh, Medium is way better. I mean, everyone plays Medium, nobody plays Top Hat. Medium lets you access a whole bunch of cards at once. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but how is that actually different from what Top Hat does? Top Hat gets you one at a time, but how important is Medium showing you the same hedge fund over and over and over and over again? What relevant information are you actually gaining from that? How useful are those repeated pointless accesses? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up some math and some scenarios that will try to delve a little deeper into just how well Top Hat measures up to a big staple R&D dig card like Medium. And you might be surprised. So let's start by making a situation that should pretty reliably happen in the game. I'm not going to try to bend things one way or the other. So here's a scenario that should be pretty common. Let's say that the top 5 cards of the Corpse R&D are in order: an operation, a piece of ice, an agenda, something that can be trashed, and another piece of ice. And now we'll assume that for whatever reason the runner just has the ability to get into R&D as much as they want. Like, I don't have to consider the cost to get into R&D because it's not relevant to the example, and neither card in question affects the cost of your runs at all. So we're just going to assume that for 2 turns the runner can just get into R&D as much as they want. And they're just going to spend every click running R&D, and we're going to see the comparison of the results that each card gets us. So on the first click, the runner runs R&D. Both Top Hat and Medium allow you to see the top card of R&D, and nothing happens. Then on the second click, both cards allow you to see the second card on R&D, and nothing happens. On the third click, both Top Hat and Medium see the third card on R&D, which is the agenda, and steal it. So far, both cards are actually neck and neck. They've both allowed you to make 3 runs on R&D, see the top 3 cards, and steal an agenda. But after this, things start to deviate a bit. So with Top Hat, you would make your 4th run, and you would say, I want to see the 3rd card from the top, because that is the freshest card, which would be card that was in place number 4, which is the thing that is trashable. And then you have to decide whether or not to trash it, but that is when your turn ends, you only have 4 clicks. Medium, on the other hand, would see all top 4 cards, which would include card at position number 4, the trashable, and card at position number 5, the other piece of ice. So the end results of our first turn are that Top Hat allowed you to access the top 4 cards of R&D and steal 1 agenda, whereas Medium allowed you to access the top 5 cards of R&D and steal 1 agenda. In both cases, though, you accessed the trashable card, which means you had to make a decision: did you or did you not pay to trash it? So this is a branch in the testing. So we're going to look at, for the first example, if you did in fact choose to trash that card and see what the results are for turn 2. So at the start of the runner's next turn, let's remember that the corp had at bare minimum their mandatory draw, which drew them the operation. So cards number 2, which was the piece of ice, number 4, the thing you didn't trash, and number 5, the other piece of ice, are currently the top 3 cards of the deck. So let's also assume this turn that you only spend 3 clicks running on R&D because, let's assume you just ran out of money. And 7 runs on R&D straight is, I think, a pretty healthy test zone. It's pretty rare that you're going to get 2 entire turns of uncontested runs on R&D. So let's say you go to 3 runs on R&D this turn. So on your first run on R&D, you're going to choose to see card number 3 from the top, because you already know what the other 2 are. And that's going to see you the 5th card down in the deck, which is that second piece of ice. However, for that same run, medium is going to have 4 virus counters left over on it from last turn, so when you make that now 5th run on R&D, it's going to see all top 5 cards of R&D, which is going to be those first 3 that you already knew, as well as 2 more fresh cards. So on your second run on R&D with Top Hat, you're going to see the 6th card in the deck, and I'm keeping the rest of these blank just to keep things simple. Whereas medium is going to get you card number 8. And then for your third and final run on R&D, Top Hat will get you to card number 7 in the deck, whereas medium is on card number 9. So while on the first turn, medium got us 1 access further, on the second turn, now it's got us 2 accesses further than Top Hat. But remember, this is assuming you did not trash that trashable card. Would trashing it change anything? Let's find out. So in the scenario where you did trash that card, that means that only card number 2, the ice, and card number 5, the other piece of ice, are on top of the deck, since remember the operation was automatically drawn. So with Top Hat on your first click, you're going to see what is now the 5th card in the deck, whereas medium, again, will allow you to see all top 5, which gets them to cards 6, 7, and 8. Okay, whereas on your second click, Top Hat allows you to see card number 6, medium is meanwhile on card number 9. Third click, Top Hat gets to card number 7, and medium is at card number 10. So, yet again, medium accessed deeper than Top Hat did. So yeah, things are not looking so great for Top Hat right now, but you still got to see the 7th card down into the deck. That's nothing to sniffle at. That's still some pretty solid R&D luck. Now yeah, it's not as good as getting 2 cards deeper than that, but why is medium digging deeper? That's the question. Well, the reason is that for both cards, the corp's mandatory draw gets them an additional access on the next turn. The difference is that while every card the corp draws gains medium another access, Top Hat has to start at whatever the freshest card is. So if the corp draws more than their mandatory draw, which, by the way, is a very bad thing to do when you're being medium dug, then medium's power increases more than Top Hat. There's also the fact that every time you trash something or steal something with medium, you are gaining 1 extra access because you're removing a card from the pile as well as getting another counter on it, whereas Top Hat, again, has to start at whatever's the freshest. Shuffling the deck while medium has counters on it also makes medium much more powerful, while Top Hat has to start from the top. This is, however, even worse to do than drawing when being medium dugged at. So while both of these things are huge bonuses for medium, drawing and shuffling, I hesitate to include them in how much more powerful it makes medium, because a smart player will avoid doing those things as much as possible while under the threat of being mediumed. Now, then, of course, medium has one very important thing about it that Top Hat doesn't have, and that's that it's a virus and it can be purged, thus resetting its power back to 0, which does sound like a big weakness, because any corp can just reset it, but it's actually kind of a strength. And let's go back to the example we had at the end of our runs the second turn, when medium has, quite a few counters on it. And yeah, you could say, well, medium can get to 20 counters if you want, but that's not realistic, unless you specifically design your deck to pile counters on top of medium, getting it above 5 is going to be pretty unusual without the corp purging. So in the scenario we set up, at this point the corp pretty much has to purge, making them have to sacrifice other actions they could have taken to avoid just flat out losing to medium. This is a strength to medium because it makes the corp have to take the lesser of two evils in order to stay alive. However, medium isn't worth using again until the top card of R&D is fresh. So if you dug all the way to card 10, then medium isn't actually a viable threat again until card number 11 is on the top of the deck, which is going to be several turns. That's going to be a good while. Whereas top hat, by comparison, is still valuable as long as any of the top 5 cards of R&D are fresh. So top hat can see a new card that very next turn, while medium would have to start all over again much, much later in the game, which gives the corp time to stabilize and make it much, much harder for that medium threat to set up again. There's also another nuanced thing to the comparison, whereas medium still allows you to access upgrades in R&D and combos with other multi-access cards like Maker's Eye, Turning Wheel, etc. Top Hat needs you to skip its effect if you want to trash the defensive upgrade, which, if it's their first turn running that, that's not a big deal. But both cards get turned off by Chrysium Grid, but Top Hat is turned off a little harder. However, the skip other access thing of Top Hat, well, usually is a little bit of a detriment. In some situations, it's actually a benefit because it can allow you to dodge on-access trap upgrades like Price-Sec, Wombat Virtual Tour, product placement, etc., which isn't frequently relevant, but it can feel pretty nice when it does happen. Now, there's also 2 other things that give medium a big leg up, and that, one, it has a nice little combo with Aeneas Informant that Top Hat does not. However, the Aeneas combo involves not trashing things, making your digs less powerful, but I'm pretty sure most people will take that for it basically becoming like a Desperado, if not better in the right situations. Yeah, that's pretty good. And of course, the one big fat whopping thing that Top Hat does not stack, medium stacks. And let's not kid ourselves, double medium is one of the strongest win conditions in the entire game of Netrunner. And, wow, I'm really taking a crap on Top Hat now, aren't I? I mean, didn't I say I was apologizing to this card? Why would I make a video just to explicitly explain something that most anyone would have told you off the top of their head anyway? It's like, well, I do have a point. The point is that while, admittedly, Top Hat is not in possession of the same kind of raw power that medium has, we need to take another look back at the base stats of the card and consider what exactly we're getting in relation to its price. So let's take another look back at that, shall we? Medium is a program. It is 3 to install, it's 1 memory, it's 3 influence. Top Hat is a hardware, meaning it's much more difficult to be destroyed than a program is. It's 0 credits to install, which, yeah, if it was 3 versus 6, that'd be one thing, but 0 versus 3 for more powerful digging effect, most people don't care about that. But the big important things are that it is 0 mu and only 1 influence, which means 2 very important things. One, if you're trying to splash this into another faction, it is substantially easier to squeeze into a deck. And 2, while medium will get you more raw digging power, Top Hat allows you the extra memory space to get still not as good, but still pretty good digging power with the effect of an entire another program of your choice. And that can make a huge difference in the value of the card. Especially after rotation, when we lose things like HQ interface and R&D interface. And post-rotation, you're going to be pretty hard-pressed to find, always out, constantly active multi-axis effects that don't require you to devote memory space to them, and also don't require you to devote a ton of deck slots to a ton of copies of run events and same old things and levies and things like that. So at 0 cost and 1 influence and no MU, it may not bring as much oomph as something like medium does, but it should not be underestimated how much flexibility it gives your deck and your deck building, especially with the freedom of what that extra MU could become. Imagine a top hat where you use that extra MU for a data sucker. That makes your R&D digs cheaper every time you get through because you get to stack up the data sucker counters, and because that's also a virus like medium is, you're still retaining the purge tempo threat of having a buttload of data sucker counters. Now, in the case of shapers, at least right now, there are generally better R&D dig options than top hat, though again, once R&D interface rotates out, you might want to take another look at it. But generally in Shaper, you're going to have stronger R&D dig options. In Anarch, of course, mediums in faction just play medium. But in Criminal, though, if you are tight on influence and don't want to spend like 3 to 6 influence on medium, or you really want that extra MU and don't want to rearrange your breaker rig for it, top hat costs a measly 1 influence, while not as strong, gives a very similar effect that honestly shouldn't be underestimated. And in fact, for that example of top hat plus data sucker, those together are a really good combo in the run-based Criminal, and even that costs less influence than 1 copy of medium does. Now, there is the comparison of top hat to turning wheel, which is also a 1 influence multi-axis tool. It's more expensive, it's easier to trash for being a resource. It's more flexible since it can be used on both R&D and HQ, but it takes twice as long to build up since you need 2 steelless runs to get 1 extra card of access. And in Criminal, you have plenty of ways to multi-access HQ, so I imagine you'll mostly just be using the turning wheel for R&D. I would probably honestly recommend top hat over turning wheel, specifically in Criminal, even though I do really like turning wheel, unless you are specifically relying on wheel as most of your multi-access in general instead of just for R&D, but I don't know why you would do that. So, after all that talk and nerd blather, I have come to a conclusion, and that is that top hat is the Krillin of R&D multi-access. It's clearly no Goku, aka medium, but when not compared to that absurdly high standard, it's actually a lot better than most people give it credit for, and honestly, I'm really tempted to give it some testing out in run-based Criminal decks, especially with Data Sucker. So, again, like, most of the time, yeah, you'll probably have better options, but if you're playing blue and you're tight on influence, this could be some really interesting and surprisingly underrated spice for your deck. So if you're interested in adding some gentlemanly class to your deck, then I think it's time we all gave Top Hat another try. I hope I alleviated your boredom for a bit or made you think about things a bit, and I will see you at the card table. Well, okay, probably not. I don't actually know any of you people, but you know what I mean. Just thank you, good night, see you next time, bye.